So we're going to move on to our next speaker. And speaking of community active wildlife stewards, I'd like to introduce the Morro Bay Harbor Department rock stars, Eric Endersby, who's the Morro Bay Harbor Director, and Becka Kelly, who's the Harbor Patrol Supervisor. They were actually given honorary cause status because of all the extraordinary work that they do to protect the wildlife of Morro Bay. And so they're here as our enforcement representative today. We like to include a talk from the enforcement perspective every year at the symposium. And with that, I'm just going to turn it over to you guys if you want to grab and share your screen. And let's see here. Hey, Eric and Becka, I'm going to let you guys take it away.
Thank you, Jen. I appreciate it. And we can't do it. I appreciate the accolades, but we can't do it without folks like you and the wardens and everybody else. It's definitely not a one-person show. So you don't have to look at our funny mugs. I'll put up a screen share of some interesting photos I dug up that kind of go along with what we're going to talk about, but just kind of want to talk about what it's like from the enforcement perspective. So we're the Harbor Department here in Morro Bay. Obviously, our probably most visible face is the Harbor Patrol, and then the folks out on the water doing rescues and public safety and voter assist. But we also get involved quite a bit with wildlife, whether that's helping release rehabilitated wildlife, or getting calls from folks that call in about what they think is a violation, or actually helping wildlife itself. And so we'll have a couple pictures of that, which will be kind of fun, and tell you a few war stories, because I know that's what most people really like to hear, is kind of the fun stuff. So I'm going to see if I'm a successful screen share here. Okay, so everybody see that? Looks like it.
You're good.
So I'll take it away. So as you all both, as we all know, Morro Bay and in particular in the Central Coast in general are real centers of wildlife and wildlife opportunities, and that's viewing and folks getting out there in the wild and just going over on the sand spit and having some fun, or going out fishing. There's obviously consumptive uses, commercial and recreational fishing. We've got sea otters in numbers we've never seen before in the bay. I remember back in the day when I started here 20 plus years ago, we had maybe one otter in the bay. Now we've probably got 15 or so at any given time. Peregrine falcons up on Morro Rock. We've got a heron rookery down towards the south end of the bay. Migratory waterfowl come through here in the wintertime right about now. Whales and dolphins offshore all over the place. I'd say very productive commercial and recreational fisheries. Unspoiled beaches, our back bay and our state national estuary program. There's another one of the partners I'll give a shout out to, the Morro Bay National Estuary Program. Pismo clams rebounding. We've seen a lot of pismos lately that are now causing some wildlife interactions that need some attention. So all those things kind of come to a head here in Morro Bay, and a lot of people come here, and it's just a great place to come and recreate and go view those things, or go fishing and whatnot. So the photo up on the screen there is an otter, a baby otter that was brought to us, I think, a couple of years ago in that little grocery bag by somebody. So as the heading there says, some people just don't really know what to do, and so they kind of take matters into their own hands sometimes, and that can be a problem.
We find all kinds of people trying to help, and it comes out of the goodness of their heart in ways like this, where this otter was brought in, or even just reporting stuff to us. What's hard is being there in a timely manner. I think sometimes wildlife disturbance comes quickly and then goes away quickly. These are some of the things, especially with whales and dolphins offshore. They're out there to go view whales. They have no idea, but the whale is now popping up right next to them when they thought they were far enough away. These kind of things we deal with daily, regularly, and we're trying to compromise and make the better out of each situation.
So up on the screen now is a bear, black bear that probably came down Morro Creek a couple of years ago and ended up out at the rock. Obviously in his native habitat, but with humans encroaching everywhere, he kind of ended up in a place where he probably didn't want to be. So just another one of the many interactions we've had over here over the years. Here's our Harbor Patrol docks with some sea lions decided to take up residence here. I've actually had another picture I was going to use of the sea lion sitting on top of the dash of our boat. As you know, the sea lion populations are very robust and they're seeking places to stay, and that makes for great viewing, but it also can cause some conflicts. Obviously here there's a potential safety issue and a health issue with these animals, both on the dock and then sitting in that little next to where the old jet ski sled is. So with all this beauty and all this wildlife comes and all the opportunities for folks to come see it and interact with it, hopefully on the proper level. Some people, like I said earlier, unintentionally do things they think they're doing the right thing, but really they're not. And some people are intentional. Pismo clams, some people know they're illegal size, but they poach them anyhow. People getting too close to otters, I think that was kind of one of the genesis for Sea Otter Savvy, was some volunteers out there and educating people out there on the water in real time, which is difficult for us to do because we're such a small department. Other examples are drones. Everybody's seen drones and the uptick in drones, especially flying out around the rock. We see them out there, and that can be a problem for the peregrines and other birds out on the rock. One of the more interesting sort of juxtapositions of wildlife and wildlife opportunities we have is the hunters that come here, waterfowl hunters that are here in the wintertime in the Back Bay for geese and brant geese and ducks, and also the Winter Bird Festival that happens at the same time. So we get kind of some interesting conflicts there. And then there's wild animal feeders, especially squirrels out at Morro Rock. I'll have a photo coming up on that here in a minute. And as Becca said, we've got whales, dolphins, killer whales show up here every once in a while, orcas. This was a probably 6 or 7 years ago photo. But with those animals come people that want to view them, and they'll head out on boats. We got snowy plovers, which is a threatened species out on the sand spit that we have to take care of. Pigeons, not really a native population per se, but wildlife that has interactions with folks that may or may not be healthy. So with that, we're kind of out here as Harbor Patrol on the front lines. Here's one of the, just when you never know what you're going to see next. Becca pulled up a bunch of photos this morning. This was the one I used of people with squirrels climbing all over them. Probably not the smartest thing in the world, but it seems to be a thing. So you'd be surprised at some of the things we get calls about. And then, so on the enforcement end, we're here as enforcers, but we're also here. One of the reasons we're here is for the because of the people that come and spend their money on the waterfront and in Morro Bay. It enables the harbor department to exist, and not just wildlife, but all the things we do, including maintaining public access facilities and clean beaches, like say the rescue component, pollution control and response. All those things take money, and all the people that come to Morro Bay and live in Morro Bay and pay their taxes, and folks that come and visit and stay in our hotels and buy food, they're all paying our way. So we need them on the one hand, but on the other hand, it can bring problems. So really it comes down to the enforcement problem. How do we do it?
So with Harbor Patrol being here on the front lines, this is our front yard of our department on the bay, along the waterfront. We do strike a delicate balance with the public. We're promoting people to go and view wildlife. I mean, I get people all the time asking me, what's the best spot to view the otters? Where do I go see the sea lions? I want to know which boat's the best one to go out on to see the whales. And we're trying. I'm so pleased that the public likes to get out and see wildlife as much as I do. We're trying to educate them at the same time to remind them how delicate wildlife really is. People try to give them human characteristics all the time, but they really just don't know how to keep wildlife wild, right? That's been one of the slogans used a lot. We compromise often with people to let them know in our education we appreciate that you like to see the squirrels, but please don't keep feeding them like that. It's very difficult for us, for enforcement parts, it's not in our rules that we are actually able to enforce. So we do a lot of warn and advise, and then we call on fish and game wardens or state park rangers to come and help us out with further enforcement. We've been so pleased to have the sea otter savvy folks in the summer months to help be eyes out on the water for us, and they help report and talk to people. I think sometimes with us in our uniforms, we tend to get a negative contact straight away, sometimes with the public, if we come up and tell them, hey, you're too close. Where a community member in a kayak coming up and with a smile and just a reminder and an education content has worked really well. And we've been very proud to work with Sea Otter Savvy and help them out with their training in the beginning, and then just partner with them through their day when they need help in situations that they're in. We make a lot of contacts as well with the businesses along the waterfront who are renting kayaks or renting the little electric boats or operating the tour boats through the bay. We get phone calls all the time of somebody saying, hey, that boat's too close, that tour boat that says whatever, you know, the name of their business along the side. And I'll instantly call up the owner and say, hey, you know, we're getting complaints. You need to remind your boat captain or your people renting the kayaks. Again, it's very serious to please stay further away from the animals in the bay. Everybody wants that close-up picture with their cell phone, or maybe their point and shoot camera, but you really have to stay further away. We have been so lucky with the sea otter viewing area on the South T Pier that you can actually be standing on land and viewing the otters in the water right there very closely. And I think that's been helpful rather than having people out on the water. And again, I think one of our hardest things that we deal with is timing. When people call an hour later and say, hey, I was just out at the rock, or they walk back to our office from being out on a walk and they let us know that there was some disturbance somewhere along their way. And it's far too late for us to respond and find the same disturbance. So we're doing the best that we can while we're out and about. We definitely make public contacts and try to educate people. But it is a delicate balance with what we do and keeping people doing the right thing.
So, as Becca said, it's a balance, it's a compromise. A lot of education, as you well know. You know, we've had, you know, there's so many war stories we can share from, you know, past and present. Like say, you know, we've had, you know, you've probably heard, you know, we've got a commercial fisherman, you know, sea lions getting on docks and on boats is a definite health and safety problem. We do our best, you know, we built that dock offshore, and most of the sea lions fortunately stay out there, but not all of them do because there's not enough room. I think we need to expand. So they end up on the docks on shore, and we've got a commercial fisherman who's got a paintball gun to get them off the docks, and which unbelievably is a legal method of deterrence if sea lions are threatening your personal safety or your property. So we're constantly trying to balance those things. We'll get calls about that. Like I said earlier, the goose hunters and the duck hunters in the Back Bay, right when the Winter Bird Festival is going, we'll get calls about that. So we'll try and make contact on both ends of both parties, both the you know, the ones that are calling and the ones that are being called about, just to, you know, get them both educated as best we can. On the squirrels, I remember years ago, some little watering and feeding bowls showed up out at the rock, and I directed one of my part-time maintenance people to go hit them with a hammer and knock them out, because those animals need to be on their own, not artificially fed. And I got a call pretty darn quickly by a charming little young lady by the age of about 95 over in Los Osos, and she chewed me a new one. She was a force to be reckoned with, and I tried to negotiate with her over a period of a couple of months to try and get her and her folks to back off from feeding the animals. And I definitely came out on the losing end of that one. She was a Spitfire. So we're always dealing with those folks. There's always conflicts. I was going to leave you with a video here, but I'm not sure how to play. I got an embedded video. I guess I should have tested it earlier. Oh, there we go. So this is a Mike Harrison, fish and game wildlife biologist on the left there in the green, and Marco, one of my harbor patrol officers there on the right. This is a baby otter that was trapped between these two docks and some kind of netting or something down below the dock there. So baby sea otter stuck in there, and we got a call about it. So Mike came down. This is probably the third or fourth one he's been able to capture and release and get it back to his mother. So I'll play this video for you, and that's what we'll wrap it up.
I just want Mom to show up quick. There you go.
Ta-da! Almost as if it was scripted. So there's one of the many interactions we've had, and I'm sure there'll be more. So there we go.
Thank you, Eric and Becca. Do you have any questions for them?
We have a request for a replay of that quick video.
Okay. Put it back up.
Oh, what a sweet reunion. That was an easy one.
Let's see, where's my play? Trying to get the full screen back here again. I'll just do a partial. So right as Mike pulls it out and holds it over the water, he says, "I'm just going to wait for the mother to show up."
I just want Mom to show up quick.
Boom.
Mom.
There you go.
Very satisfying.
Definitely. We have a question from Amanda. She says, who manages Morro Rock?
So Morro Rock is a state ecological and cultural preserve. It is within the city of Morro Bay city limits, but it's state park property basically. So roughly 50 feet out from the bottom of the rock on up is Morro Bay State Park, although we often get called in to assist. And when there's climbers, obviously Morro Bay PD and fire and state parks all come in. So it's a joint effort, but it's owned by the state parks.
And a question, is there a current fundraiser for Harbor Patrol?
I didn't ask somebody to ask that question.
Sure. No.
Yeah, there's a nonprofit group that formed about 4 or 5 years ago called the Friends of the Morro Bay Harbor Department. And they are kind of like the Morro Bay Friends of the Morro Bay Fire Department. They do fundraising efforts, they have memberships, and they help us fund things that we can't necessarily fund through our budget because we're, like most government agencies, kind of limited on what we have funding for. So they formed, and they've been great at fundraising. They recently raised us $100,000 to help replace one of our patrol boats. They've funded one of our lifeguard towers, refurbishing of a second lifeguard tower. They funded the sea lion dock out there. It used to be a dock we had transient boaters could stay on until the sea lions took over, so we gave it up to the sea lions. If you can figure out how to get them to pay their rent would be nice, but we still let them stay out there for free. So they spent about $20,000 on the rebuild of that dock. Friends of the Morro Bay Harbor Department's been great.
We have a question. Is the best way to volunteer to help the Harbor Department with outreach to go through Sea Otter Savvy or Sea Life Stewards, or does the department have their own program?
Becca, I'm gonna let her field that one.
So definitely great to work with either Sea Otter Savvy or Sea Life Stewards. Other partnerships that we have that work directly with us, the National Estuary Program, Pacific Wildlife Care, the Marine Mammal Center. If you're looking to do help with wildlife, any of those groups would be great. We also are always looking for volunteers though with the Friends of the Morro Bay Harbor Department to help us with some of that fundraising or getting word out about the group, or at some of the events. We'll put a table out there. We have a Marine swap meet each year that we do if you're just interested in actually helping with our department.
Yeah, and probably for sea life and wildlife kind of stuff, probably go through one of the two groups, because we really don't have the capacity to manage a volunteer program. But we'll always, like say, maybe take the assistance through the Friends. So it'd probably be the best way to go, be that way.
I would also say, we have, I think I said this before, and when I was speaking, that we take phone calls and people coming in daily, just giving us more eyes out on the water. There's only usually about 3 of us working per day. And if we're caught up doing maintenance or on a search and rescue or other things along down the bay, we just can't see it all. So we definitely rely on the public's eyes to help us, and I guess sometimes give us our focus back of what we're missing out on while we're looking the other way or anything like that.
Okay, one super quick question. Does Harbor Patrol have citation authority? Last question.
They do, but it's limited. We're not full sworn peace officers. Basically, what we can enforce on is mostly Morro Bay Municipal Code, which mostly deal on from a user standpoint on the bay. It's pollution type incidents that we have citation authority on. And then Harbors and Navigation Code, California Harbors and Navigation Code, which is all boating stuff. When it comes to marine mammal interactions, that's all federal law. We don't have any authority there. A lot of the animal feeding stuff is state law. So we don't have that Harbors and Navigation Code, we're limited to that. We don't have the authority to pursue fish and game type codes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eric and Becca, for being here and for your continued stewardship of Morro Bay's wildlife. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.